Hey everyone, my name is Tristan and welcome to my workshop. About 6 months ago, I made this Uruk sword from the Lord of the Rings. It was such a fun prop to make and I like it so much that I decided to make the shield too. This is the perfect build for a beginner because it's only a couple pieces, it's easy to put together, and there's so much battle damage and weathering that you don't have to worry about building it cleanly. Also, I made the templates for this build available for pretty cheap over on my Etsy store, which makes it so much easier to follow along with this video. But now let's get right into the build. Here are the templates for the Uruk shield. Those are the first 4 pieces to cut out, all out of 10mm EVA foam. The shield is made for someone who's right-handed, but if you're left-handed like me, all you have to do is flip those 4 pieces and that's it. After tracing my templates on the foam, I remove the pins that hold them down. After that, I use a sharp box cutter to cut out my pieces. Don't forget to cut this edge at a 20° inward angle, but only on this piece. You don't have to be super precise with the angle. This piece needs a 20° and 35° outward angle cuts. And this one needs a 35° outward angle cut. It's time to glue our shield together. For that, I'm using barge contact cement. I start by applying it to the longest edge of each piece. You only need 1 layer of glue on each part. After a couple minutes of drying, you can carefully stick the 2 parts together. Take your time to get the cleanest seam possible. And I think this looks pretty good. Now you can apply glue to the smaller pieces and to the top edge of the shield itself. After that, connect the 2 smaller parts together as shown on screen. Finally, stick them to the shield. And that's starting to look like something. Let's make the 2 spikes, and they need to be 20mm thick. So I just glued 2 10mm pieces together. Then simply trace the templates on your foam and carefully cut them out. The 2 longest edges need to be sharp on both sides like a sword, so I remove most of the excess foam with my box cutter. This gives me the basic shape I want. Next, using my Dremel with a sanding drum, I clean up those sharpened edges and round up the rest of the edges. And this looks pretty good. Now you can glue those pieces to your shield. It doesn't matter if your shield is made for a right or left-handed, the left spike still needs to go on the left side, and same for the right side spike. And make sure your spikes are glued in so they protrude equally on each side. And I'm pretty happy with that. This is the trim piece for the straps, and you have to cut 2 of them out. You'll also have to cut out 8 of those 2mm circle details, 4 on each piece. I cut mine out using a sharpened PVC pipe. Now you can simply glue them on with contact cement. This is what you should end up with. The next parts to cut out are those 2 buckles out of 4mm foam. Then you'll have to cut out the straps out of 2mm foam. This one has to be cut out 3 times, which I forgot, but you'll see I cut it out later. Now let's make all those holes on the straps. First, I mark them with a pen to make the next step easier. There's many ways to make holes in foam. I like to use a wood burner with a straight tip. Make sure you do this over a thick piece of foam to not ruin your table or cutting mat. Also, wear a respirator because those fumes are really toxic. I really like how clean the holes are using this technique. On the left are all the parts for the handle, and on the right are all the ones for the forearm strap. For the handle, you have to glue the 2 straps together with super glue. Make sure it's long enough to wrap around your hand. Then for the forearm strap, the smaller piece gets glued over the bigger one. This one should be long enough for almost anyone. To reinforce the foam straps, I'll apply glue to some nylon webbing and stick them to the back side of the foam straps. If you use 1-inch wide webbing, it should fit perfectly behind both straps. Now you can finally glue the buckles to the straps. The straps will get secured under the trim pieces, so cut out the slits on the marked lines. Then you can feed the straps through those slits and adjust the length to fit your hand and forearm. Once you know they fit properly, you can glue them on using super glue. And double check the fitment now before gluing them to the shield. Now, following the placement from the templates, you can mark where the straps will attach to the shield. And finally, glue the straps to your shield using contact cement. And the construction of the shield is finished. I decided to add some details on the leather parts using a leather tracing wheel and a toothpick. As you can see, the shield is supposed to be really rough and have a lot of texture. To achieve that look, I'll use my Dremel with a sanding drum. I start by rounding up the edges to get a more natural look. Then I start adding big marks and gouges in the foam, followed by smaller and smaller marks until the whole shield is covered. Now this looks like a proper Uruk shield. I also added texture to the backside, including the leather parts and buckles. The leather parts still need some details, so I crumble up some aluminum foil, heat up the foam, and press in the aluminum foil before it cools off. And this is the result. It's finally time to seal the shield, and to get even more texture, I'll use Flex Seal. This is how the shield should look after one coat. Earlier, I forgot to add the little rivets that go on the spikes. These are made out of foam, and I glued them on with super glue before spraying them with Flex Seal. Don't worry, I made sure to add them to the templates. Let's paint the shield. I start with one primer coat of black acrylic paint over the whole shield. This is just to get rid of the rubbery look of the Flex Seal. Also, after the shield is covered, I stipple the paint before it dries to get a random texture instead of brush strokes. Next, I mixed up a dark silver which I'll heavily dry brush over the shield to pick up all the texture that was added with the Dremel and the Flex Seal. I also dry brush the buckles since they're supposed to be metal too. This is how the shield looks with the dry brushed silver. Uruk shields are pretty rusted, so to achieve that look, I'll stipple on some burnt sienna. The spots I'm aiming for are the edges, the corners, and a couple high spots. I also use a smaller brush for the details and a paper towel to remove the excess paint. To get even more variation, I'll use raw sienna selectively over the spots already covered with burnt sienna. The main goal here is to make it look natural. For the leather parts, I'll start with 2 coats of burnt umber, but any dark brown paint would totally work fine for this. Then I'll use raw sienna and a small chip brush to dry brush the edges and give the leather a more worn-in look. Finally, I diluted some black paint in water, and I'll use that to weather the corners and low spots. And now you should have your own EVA foam Uruk shield. Here is the final result, and I'm super happy with it since it turned out exactly how I wanted. I really like how detailed the back is, especially the straps and the buckles. As I said at the start of the video, the templates for this shield are available over on my Etsy store along with many others. Also, if you want to see more of what I do, things that don't always make it into my videos, you can go follow me on Instagram. All the links will be in the description. Now this is the end of the video. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed, you can leave a like and subscribe to my channel for more cool stuff like this. And until my next video, I'll see you later. Bye.